Hey everybody, welcome to the American Prepping Academy. I'm JJ Johnson, and today we're going to talk about how to prepare for an economic depression. Now, before we get started, let me just say that the United States is a very diverse and resilient economy, and I am not certain that we are going to go into an economic depression. I'm probably a little more over, toward 6 out of 10. If 5 out of 10 was half and half, kind of 50-50, I'm a little more concerned than just being neutral on it. But who knows? We don't know what the future is gonna bring. But as preppers, it's important for us to try to look at what's happening and just try to be ready for those situations. And so that is what these slides are going to talk about. And the great thing about these suggestions is that if we don't go into an economic depression, you're only going to be better off, and you're only going to be setting yourself up for success anyway. So I think that hopefully these things will be useful for you. And with that, let's go ahead and get into this. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to secure your current job status. This is really important, and that's why it's listed at the very top of the list here. The people who suffered the most in the Great Depression were those people who were fired or laid off from jobs. Those who continued to work fared much better and got through it at a lot less pain. You need to become the MVP at work. You want to show up early, work hard, leave late, make sure you resolve any beefs with your bosses or your coworkers. You want to be the guy or gal that they really can't do without. You want to take a look at maybe completing some advanced certifications, take advantage of cross-training opportunities. That way you know all the jobs in the shop or in the workplace that you work in. You want to further your education within your field if at all possible. Take advantage of those opportunities now. The bottom line here is that if decisions have to be made about who gets laid off or fired, you want to be the last man or woman standing. So you got to be that most valuable player. You got to be the person that they really can't do without. Okay, so the next thing on the list here is start a side hustle. The idea here is that you want to be able to earn as much income as possible, as quickly as possible. Now, this could mean taking a second job. It could mean starting a side business that you already have an aptitude or the skills to do. Just some ideas that popped into my head, and obviously I don't know what your particular skill sets are, but you could maybe do something like doing mobile oil changes or mobile car detailing, where you go to the person's house and do those things for them. Or you could be an Uber driver, get kind of the gig economy, maybe deliver groceries to people's houses or something along those lines. Maybe you could sell crocheted products or make masks or sell handmade products of some sort. Maybe you do woodworking if you have a shop. Or maybe you could just get some kind of an online job, that you can do in the week, nights and weekends. But the thing is that having a secondary income stream will allow you to utilize that money that you make from there to get ready for hard time, to add it to your preps. This doesn't mean robbing a bank or gambling or any other kind of risky behavior, but we're just talking about getting a side hustle, getting some kind of additional income coming in. Now, if your spouse doesn't have a job, you need to ask yourself, can they realistically get one? Many families, only one person works, and now might be a time that you want to try to get both people working, is all I'm saying. In a typical situation, and this is not always, but the man would have the job and the woman would stay home with the kids or whatever. Well, maybe the wife could do babysitting or do some drop-in daycare, at odd hours, or maybe they could do overnight care, which is hard for a lot of night workers to find. Or maybe there's some other kind of online job that they might be qualified for as well. But again, you're just looking at trying to maximize that income. And the reason you want to do that is because it's going to be important for you to increase your cash reserves. Those people with significant savings are going to do much better than those people without, because they can handle emergencies as they come up and those kinds of things. I recommend having at least one full month of expenses in cash in your home. Be able to pay for everything that you would normally spend money on for an entire month. Food, water, entertainment, bills, the whole deal. Once that's complete, then take a look at trying to build up 2 more months worth of savings in your savings account as a minimum. Now, if you can do more, if you have more already, that's great. Do that. Okay, once those things are taken care of, stock up on food. Food scarcity and economic collapse go hand in hand. Increase your long-term food supply. You should consider having a minimum of 90 days worth of food in your home, with the goal of having 1 year's worth of food being even better. You might want to check out the lesson that we did here on Patreon called Food Supply 101. That was recently published, and it has a whole list of items that can be stocked up on and that have long shelf lives. Don't forget to keep extra water on hand and have extra ways to gather, transport, and purify water as well, just in case you have a disruption in utility services. All right, now this one is also very important. You need to find a group of reliable people. You need to have a group of reliable people in your life that you can trust and who care for your well-being. It's important you understand that these people do not have to be preppers right now. You can make them into preppers later. But right now, they just need to be people that you trust, people that you rely on, people that care about you, and people that you care about. The thing is that one accident, one car crash, one house fire, one other calamity can be the difference between success or failure during an economic collapse. You need to find a group of people and form a close relationship with them so that if they need help, you can help them. And conversely, if you need help, they can help you. I suggest looking into things like church home Bible studies or home groups. The VFW, or Veterans of Foreign Wars, if you're a veteran, Moose Lodge, Elks Lodge, or any of these other fraternal orders that are out there. The cost of membership is well worth it for the network of people that you'll be introduced to. And many people in these groups are already preppers. So think about that. Okay, the next thing here is you want to get your medical and dental work done now. Doctors and dentists run businesses, and they are not immune to business failures. It's possible that many smaller local shops could end up closing their doors. Additionally, having to pay for costly procedures, when money is tight, might be difficult. Insurance companies may also cut benefits and reduce coverages if profits are falling dramatically. So you want to get these things taken care of. Having any potentially problematic procedures done now will provide a lot of peace of mind that you are physically ready to weather the storm. Don't forget also to get an additional spare set of eyeglasses or multiple sets of contact lenses if anybody in the home wears them. Having those ahead of time will be a good idea. The next thing here is that you want to stock up on prescription medications. This is a difficult prospect, and so it's something that's going to take a little bit of effort and work on your part. If you're reliant on regular prescription medications, if possible, if your medication or your medical condition will allow, talk with your doctor about non-prescription alternatives. Also do your own research before speaking with them so that, if he just says, no, there are none out there, you can say, well, what about X, Y, and Z? You want to explain to them that you're a prepper and that you would like to be familiar with some of these, natural or non-prescription alternatives. You could also ask them if they would be willing to provide you with an additional 60 to 90 day supply of medication. Some doctors will, some doctors won't. It's going to be hit and miss, and there may be some restrictions as far as legally on what they can do. They certainly are not going to do it for prescription narcotics or pain medications, so don't even ask. But the thing is that if they're not willing to assist you with finding alternatives, you need to call and interview multiple other doctors and see if you can find one that will. Remember, they're your employee and they work for you. They are not your boss. Okay, they work for you. That is so important to remember when dealing with doctors. Okay, next thing on the list here is, you've heard this drum beat quite a bit here on Patreon lately, is improve home security. A dramatic rise in criminal behavior and economic collapse also go hand in hand. Desperate people will take desperate measures. I suggest you take a look at the Home Security 101 lesson and go through that and see what things you can pull from it to make your home a little bit more secure. You want to try to apply the 4 Ds of home security. That's deter. And what we're saying there is you make your home look like a harder target. Then there's detect, and that's having alarm systems and things like that, so that people come down your driveway or try to enter your home, you'll be notified. Then you want to delay them from entering by making your doors and windows more difficult to get through. And then finally, defend it, and that's obviously with firearms or non-lethal weapons, whatever the case you have in your area and what's legal. So the bottom line is that you want to be able to defend your home if somebody tries to come in. So make sure you check that stuff out and pay close attention to that. The next thing you want to do is start a garden. I'd recommend planting at least one 4x8 raised bed garden per each member of the family as you start, and add to it as your confidence grows and if you have more resources and all those kinds of things. One of the reasons I like raised bed gardens is because they're considered planter boxes for most homeowners associations. And so even if your homeowners association says you can't have a garden, you can still have a raised bed garden because it's a planter box, not a garden, an in-the-ground garden. Anyhow, one 4x8 foot raised bed garden can produce more than 100 pounds of food if it's maximized to its fullest extent. Take a look at using the square foot gardening technique and the successive gardening techniques. This is where you use, you'll plant spring plants, you'll let them grow, and then once those harvest, and you'll plant summer plants. Do the same thing. Once those harvest, then you plant fall plants. And so you can use the garden through a longer period of time throughout the year. Key thing here is make sure you grow foods that you actually eat. Research the most productive vegetables in your area that you actually like to eat, and then plant those. You also want to start with a soil test, especially if you're using the dirt in your backyard. You want to go ahead and add mulch to this, to your garden bed. I don't like store-bought bags of dirt because it's really, really costly, and a lot of times you can get insects and stuff in there that you wouldn't have otherwise had. So I suggest visiting your county landscapes and recycling center and see if they have topsoil for sale or compost and mulch. And you can also call the county agricultural department to see if they can recommend where you could get a soil test done. And you want to do that so that you understand if your soil if the pH levels are correct and all those kinds of things. Because you don't want to be trying to grow vegetables in a soil that's too alkaline, or whatever the case may be. So it's going to give you a lot of information to start off with. I'd recommend taking a look at the Gardener Scott YouTube channel. I recently came across him, and I think he's got over 100 videos on gardening. He keeps his topics very generalized so that it can be applicable in all locations, and he does a really good job of explaining things. So I would check him out if you guys get the chance. Okay, so the next thing you might want to take a look at here is animal husbandry. Both chickens and rabbits have a fairly low investment cost and a fairly high nutritional return. And the thing is it's not that they're necessarily cheaper to raise on your own than it would be to, say, buy eggs in the store right now. But that could change as things, change in an economic collapse. But the thing is that they will make you more self-sufficient, and there are multiple ways to reduce costs if you can build, the coops yourself, or if you can raise some of the food that they eat. I mean, there's different ways that you can try to reduce those costs. Okay, now taking a look at rabbits. Rabbits are a pretty amazing meat resource. One buck and two doe rabbits will keep you really busy processing rabbit meat. Each doe can be bred every 30 days, and you can expect about 16 rabbits per month out of two does. Then, about every 90 days, those offspring will be ready to butcher. So if you start this rotation where you have the breeding cycles offset, wait about 6 weeks, breed one, and then wait about 6 weeks, and then breed the other doe, and then you'll just have this constant rotation, that you keep going, and that's going to supply a lot of meat for you. Now you got to be willing to be able to cull them and clean them and dress them and all that kind of stuff, and process them to be ready to eat, but it's better than starving for sure. Okay, so the next thing is 6 good laying hens will produce far more eggs than one family of 4 can eat each month. And here is the thing: you might want to start now, because you're going to need about 6 months to let the rabbits and chickens mature before they're old enough to start production. So you got to get going on it early. Many jurisdictions also do not count hens and rabbits as livestock, especially if kids are members of the local 4-H club. And as a side note, this is a great place to meet other preppers. Many jurisdictions do not count hens and... Oh, I already said that. Sorry. Okay, so the next thing is vehicle repairs and maintenance. Many of us, including me, put off vehicle repairs. Don't do that. All right, get these items taken care of now. Prices will increase, and job repair times may also increase because of layoffs and supply chain disruptions. This could mean being without transportation for weeks, which could impact your standing at work and could also lead to job loss. Coming up with the money for expensive car repairs during a depression might be difficult. So, get that stuff taken care of now. Make sure your vehicles are in tip-top shape. Also, you might want to consider having backup transportation. Another cheap little vehicle, cheap, commuter car, a bicycle, an electric bike, ATV or UTV if you live out in a rural area, or something along those lines. But you want to make sure that your transportation is squared away so that you can keep that job and you can keep working. Okay, next one here is store some extra fuel. If the economy gets bad, domestic fuel production could be cut. I've been worried about this for a while. If that happens, then fuel availability may get reduced and possibly even rationed like it was in the late 1970s. Now, having additional fuel on hand will allow you to travel more than you would otherwise be able to if an emergency took place and you needed to relocate to or travel to a friend or family's house, temporarily. So, for example, if you were only allowed to purchase 10 gallons a week, but something happened and you needed to travel to a friend or family's house for the weekend, 400 miles away, maybe it was just a death in the family or something like that, then that might leave you short on your ability to get back and forth, to the work the rest of the week. Maybe you could have made it there with just that 10 gallons, but if you didn't have extra, then you might not be able to go back and forth to work the rest of the week. So you'd be kind of screwed. But if you had an extra 50 gallons of fuel stored in gas cans, then you could make the trip and still have enough to be able to go back and forth the week as normal, crisis averted. So having fuel on hand is a good idea. All right, you also want to get a generator. Rolling blackouts or rationing of electricity during economic depressions is quite common. You need to be able to keep all that recently stocked up meat frozen, because remember, you're increasing your food supplies, right? Having a backup generator will enable you to keep from losing all that food if the power goes out for an extended time. I prefer dual fuel hybrid generators. Hybrid generators can run off of both liquid propane or unleaded gasoline. There are also versions that can run off natural gas as well. The benefit to propane is that you can store it for a very long time. Propane, generally speaking, does not go bad. After long periods, it may slowly seep out if the seals in the tanks are not great, but typically it's going to last many years. If possible, have a transfer box installed to your home. That way you don't have to get out extension cords and run the extension cords throughout the house and everything. You can just transfer the switch to take the home off the grid, and then plug your generator right into the transfer switch, and then run everything as normal throughout your house. So that's really the best way to go about it. If your budget allows, consider having a whole house generator with automatic shut-off or startup added. These can also be fueled with natural gas from the utility company. Natural gas outages are rare and will usually keep flowing. All right. Last item here on the list is get a backup indoor heat source. If you live in a northern tier area with cold winters, consider getting a backup indoor heat source. I prefer propane heaters that are explicitly rated for indoor use with low oxygen sensors. These use a common 20-pound propane tank that are for barbecue grills and generators, so you have a commonality of fuel between these items that are going to last a long time. You want to also make sure that they have a tip-over automatic shut-off as well, because they can be big fire hazards, especially if you've got small kids. And make sure you follow the manufacturer's instructions for use. Okay, guys, so that is my, about 14 tips or so for getting prepared for an economic collapse or an economic depression. Now, like I said, I really don't know if we're going to have an actual depression or if it's going to be a full-on collapse or if it's just going to be a longer recession. I don't have any idea what's going to happen. But I think doing all of these items on the list are only going to set you up for success if something does happen. And even if it doesn't, all the items on the list are still pretty much beneficial for you in pretty much every way. So nothing hurt, nothing lost, nothing gained. Anyway, guys, if you got any questions, please leave them down in the comments below or shoot me an email to AmericanPreppingAcademy@protonmail.com. Thanks a lot for watching, guys.